This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonlight Graham Show, where we celebrate the role players, the underdogs, and great stories in sports. And the great story that we're going to be sharing with you today is from a little place called the All Iowa Lawn Tennis Club. Stolen, of course, from the All England Lawn Tennis and Croquet Club, where the great Wimbledon tennis tournament takes place each and every year. There's a small farm in Iowa about 5 miles south of Charles City, Iowa, in northeast Iowa, where there was a dreamer that lived on that farm. And when he was a kid, he dreamt about playing at Wimbledon and the grass courts at Wimbledon. And that dream stayed with him until he was an adult, and still living on that farm, he decided to turn a little patch of land on that farm into the nicest grass tennis court that you're going to find in the Midwest. Heck, it might be the only grass tennis court that you find in the state of Iowa. And so for today's episode, my brother Neil and I, we went up to the All Iowa Lawn Tennis Club just south of Charles City, and we played a tennis match on that court. And let me tell you, it was awesome. So the podcast today, the first half of it is Neil and I driving up to the tennis court. Some people are even calling it the Court of Dreams. So the first half is us driving up there. The second half of the episode is us giving our review of the court and also talking about the match that we just played. I think you guys are going to enjoy the episode. And I got to wonder what the great people over at People's Company, Matt Adams, Andrew Zelmer, what would they think about a farmer turning a piece of his, cattle lot or farmland, similar to the Field of Dreams, right, into this little grass tennis court. I wonder what the value of that, the opportunity cost is of that farmer. Maybe we'll have to bring him on the show to talk about it. So enjoy today's episode about the All Iowa Lawn Tennis Club. Some people are calling it the Court of Dreams. Moonlighters, are you or someone you know moving down to Kansas City? Well, if you are, the one realtor that we trust and that you need to be calling is the great Brian Sandvig. As you well know, Brian Sandvig is our producer here on the podcast, and there is not a better residential real estate advisor down in the Kansas City marketplace than Brian Sandvig. Call Brian Sandvig, shoot him a text. Hey, DM us on social media. We'll get you connected with Brian if you can't find him on all the socials, but he is there and he is active, and he is your Kansas City realtor, so give him a call. We are on the road once again, headed to the biggest tennis match of our lives at the All Iowa Lawn Tennis Clubs. Some people call it the Court of Dreams. I'm your host, Tim Flattery, and I am with my co-host and co-pilot, Neil Flattery. Neil, how nervous are you for this tennis match?
I'm as nervous as I've ever been for a tennis match, Tim, because this is the only actually important tennis match I will ever play. I have ever played and maybe ever will play in my whole life.
So we mentioned before that we are headed to the All Iowa Lawn Tennis Club. This is not quite what you might be thinking. What the All Iowa Lawn Tennis Club is it is a grass tennis court that has been built where a cattle feedlot used to be on the Kuhn family farm outside of Charles City, Iowa. So the story goes, Mark Kuhn, who we expect to meet here in about 30 minutes, Mark Kuhn dreamt about playing tennis at Wimbledon when he was a kid. And so he'd be out shoveling cow manure, taking care of the cows on his family farm, dreaming about the center court at Wimbledon, the grass tennis courts, the famous grass tennis courts at Wimbledon, and is dreaming about building one of those courts in his backyard. This is back in the 1960s, so well before the movie Field of Dreams. And 40 years later, once Mark's an adult, he is now on that same family farm that the Kuhn family has had for many years. He decides to make that dream a reality and build a legit grass tennis court, one of the best in the country from what I heard, on that same spot of land that the cattle feedlot has been, and it has turned into what like many are calling the Court of Dreams, similar to the story of Field of Dreams. And what I love about this, Neil, is this is not a fictional tale. This is not a court that was built for a movie, for a TV show, like the Field of Dreams was. And the Field of Dreams, we love it, of course, in its own right. But this is a real passion project from Mark, and I think it speaks to like Iowa ingenuity and problem solving. And if you got a dream, just go out and do it. And that's what Mark Kuhn has done with the Iowa Lawn Tennis Club.
Yeah, Tim, I agree. And I think it's almost like a really great advertisement for the state of Iowa, where you have this guy, you know, he just had enough room and he just decided, I'll just go ahead and build, maybe there isn't a tennis court nearby in Charles City that I can go to. So I'm just going to build one in my backyard and have it be modeled after the All England Lawn Tennis Club in England and make it a really cool experience for tennis fans in Iowa. So I think it's one of those things where you can you know, tell a guy living in like a big city, like, hey, move out of your big city and move to Iowa. We got room here. You can build a tennis court in your backyard.
It's a little bit surprising that it has taken us this long to do this, because this is the Field of Dreams of tennis. It's in Iowa, not far actually from the Field of Dreams. It's nestled around cornfield. Heck, we probably can walk out of the corn onto the tennis court today. And, of course, we've got this Moonlight Graham Show podcast. That how did it take us 5 years to do a podcast on it? So what we're doing today, Neil and I, we are currently driving to the All Iowa Lawn Tennis Club. We've got our all whites on. We are going to play a tennis match at the court. We're going to record, of course, before and after the tennis court. I guess, what are your expectations, Neil? This guy has modeled it after center court at Wimbledon, but I don't think it's exactly going to be center court at Wimbledon that we're playing on.
No, Tim, I don't have a whole lot to expect because I've never really played on a grass tennis court. So all I know about grass tennis courts is what I've heard. You know, I've heard that they're even faster than hard courts, which I've only ever played on hard courts. It'll be interesting to see what type of shape the grass is in. Because we've, it's later in the summer and we haven't got a lot of rain these last couple months, so it'll be interesting to see what type of shape it is. But what I'm most looking forward to is kind of like the feeling you got when you're a little kid and, you're shooting baskets in your backyard, pretending like you're, making a free throw to, tie the game in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. So I'm like looking forward to like pretending like I'm at center court of Wimbledon, on the Sunday of the finals.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing like all the little things that they've done. Like, do they have a chair umpire's chair? Do they have how much have they stolen from Wimbledon, from like the small little details? Is there a locker room? Are there strawberries and cream? Are there all these other little things that are unique to Wimbledon that they have kind of made their own here outside of Charles City? I'm looking forward to that piece. To your point about the grass itself, if you look at anybody's yard in the state of Iowa right now, we are in a 2-month drought, so everybody's got brown yards right now. I'm expecting that he irrigates this, but I don't really know. From the pictures that I've seen, there is not a lot of shade here on the Court of Dreams. So part of me thinks, I don't know how this couldn't be a brown tennis court right now.
I know, but I almost think that even may be more fitting because, like, you get to that second week of Wimbledon and that court's pretty used up at that point, and the grass isn't always in the greatest shape. So I'm okay if it's a little dry and a little worn out.
What's interesting about this is I don't know if there's another grass tennis court in the state of Iowa. Back like 60 years ago, when a lot of, in Iowa, the country clubs in Iowa were popping up and building tennis courts, and the tennis boom of the 1960s, of course, that we all know and love. Many country clubs had hard courts, clay courts for sure, because they were easier to maintain, and some even had grass courts. But as people are playing less tennis, there's way less tennis being played today than like back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s across the United States. A lot of those grass and clay tennis courts have been either turned into golf training facilities or simply pickleball courts, Neil. And so I don't know if there is another grass tennis court in the state of Iowa.
Yeah, and I know, all I knew that there was one grass tennis, or there was a grass tennis court in Iowa, and so I'm assuming that like this is one of them, but I haven't heard of any other grass tennis courts being around, and it almost makes me think just the way that it like, this grass tennis court's marketed, it almost seems like it is kind of like the special thing to the state, but I don't know for sure if it's the only one or not.
How nervous are you for Mark, who seems to be a tennis fanatic, right? This guy grew up listening to tennis on the radio of his transistor radio, which is kind of hilarious to me. I've never listened to a tennis match on the radio, but Mark grew up dreaming about that when he was a kid. So he's got to be pretty into tennis. And I know most of the people that are playing at the Owl Iowa Lawn Tennis Club are obviously tennis fanatics, very good tennis players. I mean, heck, they had Madison Keys there just a month ago for a clinic and a charity event. We might be the 2 worst tennis players ever to reserve this. Are you nervous at all for Mark to catch a glimpse of us playing and say, oh man, these guys are just jacking around on my grass tennis court out here?
Yeah, a little bit, Tim, because the thing is, I had never really thought about it till you brought that up now, but like we reserved this, we both emailed this guy separately to reserve the court, over a month ago at this point. And so like he's probably expecting us to be pretty good. We're driving, you're probably driving 3 hours out of your way to get to this court. And so I hope he doesn't expect us to be like tennis prodigies or anything, because that's not what he's going to see.
If he's expecting Aaron Chalstrom versus Mike Huss, he's in for a big disappointment. But we're not there to jack around either. We're there to play a serious tennis match. Like, this means a lot to you and I. This is the biggest tennis match of our lives, without a doubt.
Yeah, it'll be an extremely intense match. The skill level may not be there, but like we're going to put our heart and soul into the game, though. I really want to win.
One thing I'm a little bit nervous about is I've been known to throw a racket or two.
Yeah.
I've broken a number of rackets, throwing them against, hard courts, throwing them against a net, hitting them against the pole of a tennis net, Now I'm not going to do that, but sometimes my emotions do get the best of me, especially when I'm losing. And if I throw my racket, does it take a divot out of the grass, of the sod?
Yeah, I'm going to try to not throw my racket, and if I do like get to that point, what I've been doing more recently is like not actually like chucking the racket at the fence, because I have like a more expensive one now that I invested in. I've been doing like the fling it up as high as I can thing after like a bad shot. So like hopefully I can do maybe a couple of those, but I got to catch it before it hits the grass.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you made an investment in a tennis racket.
Yeah, I got to make sure I don't break this one.
Yeah, I'm going to try not to throw the racket, but I also kind of hope Mark, he sees us in our all whites. We look legit.
We got to read the room too. Maybe Mark is going to be like really, I don't know, maybe he's going to be like happy to see us and stuff, and maybe we'll realize we may have more free reign than we thought.
Yeah, we're going to look the part, and we hired a videographer here to actually document this, and hopefully we look the part on that as well. But if they look closely, you'll be able to see some major flaws in our game.
Yeah.
But hopefully Mark doesn't see that, and the videographer doesn't see that either.
Yeah, we'll have to do some careful editing with the videographer to make us look a little better than we are.
So let's talk about the match, Neil. We got this court reserved for 2 hours. We're going to play hopefully every minute of that 2 hours. I don't know if we'll be able to get a full 3 sets in. You've played a couple of matches against our cousin David, also a tennis guy. So how's your game right now?
I think my game's as good as it's ever been. I mean, that's not saying a whole lot, because I'm not that great of a tennis player. But like I used to really avoid my backhand. So I'd run around it to try to hit forehands as much as possible. Now I'm a little more comfortable with my backhand than I've been. I get my first serve in a little bit more than I ever have. I kind of know when to go into the net and when not to, maybe more than I used to. But like I said, I'm not that great of a player, but I'm trying to get better.
The last time I played was against you, and we were just talking before we started recording. We couldn't figure out if that was last year or the year before. So it's either been 1 or 2 years since I played, but last time I played, I beat you.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm expecting to beat you again, because I'm hot right now.
No, I actually think I'm going to win.
So I haven't played a lot of tennis. I have played a lot of pickleball, so I haven't getting my racket skills in. I feel okay. I'm more worried about the movement on the grass. So
Yeah, is it going to be slippery? Or
they say you got to be a little bit lighter on your feet than hard courts because you can't cut the same way, you can't plant the same way. So I'm a little nervous about the groin.
Yeah.
You know, about trying to plant and all of a sudden my footing going out and stretching a groin, stretching a hamstring out because, you know, I'm 3 years younger than Roger Federer, but Federer was old 3 years ago too.
Right, Tim. But the thing is, we brought our bananas, so like we shouldn't cramp up or anything like that. We're kind of cutting it close as far as the time goes, so we're not going to have a whole lot of time to stretch. But that's okay.
Yeah. So we're about to Charles City right now. We will talk to you again after the match and let you know how we did. We'll give you a full rundown of the All Iowa Lawn Tennis Club, essentially the field of dreams of tennis in the United States. We're back on the road 3 hours later. We just left the historic downtown of Rockford, Iowa, where we had to stop at Yes Way and get some world-famous Allsups snacks on the road. And I'm exhausted. First of all, we just finished a 2-hour grudge match out on the historic All Iowa Lawn and Tennis Club. It was a great afternoon. It was a great afternoon all the way around. Neil, how are you feeling right now?
I just don't feel very good, Tim. I got beat.
Yeah, spoiler alert, I won.
Yeah, Tim won the first set. I won the second set. Short turnover into the super set to determine the winner.
We had to do a super tiebreaker.
Oh, super tiebreaker.
We had to do a super tiebreaker after 2 sets because we were running out of time, and I won the super tiebreaker 10-8.
10-8.
I was up 9-4, and you saved 4 straight match points to make it 9-8.
Tim was up 9-4. I narrowed the court a little bit, won a couple points, battled back. I should have won that last point. I took a volley into the net. Tim won.
The 2 previous points, when it was 9-6 and 9-7, I got my first serve in on both those points. You hit good returns, had good rallies. I ended up diving on both of those points and losing both of them. I thought, am I going to blow this thing when I was up 9-4?
I know. I was kind of just getting the mindset of just like, let's just leave it all out here, hit it as hard as I can, go for the winners, go to the net hard. And, I did get a couple. There was only one guy watching us, and we can get into him later. But there was less people around. I felt more comfortable, and I chucked my racket outside.
Twice.
One time stayed in the court. The last time I had to go retrieve it outside of the court.
All right, so we'll talk more about our match here. I think what people mostly want to hear about is our impression of the Court of Dreams, the All Iowa Lawn Tennis Club. So first of all, I was a little bit surprised. It was not what I was expecting. And I would say that it was not what I was expecting, but in a good way. So we pull up. First of all, you drive on. This is not in Charles City. Charles City is not exactly, it's not really a city. Charles City is more of a town, a smaller town in Iowa.
I like that we call our little cities town, or little town cities.
Yeah, I got nothing against Charles City.
Yeah.
But this is 5 miles outside of Charles City, probably.
It's on a gravel road.
It's on 2 miles of gravel road.
Yeah.
So, like, it's even more remote than the Field of Dreams.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to imagine, like, Madison Keys, who's, like, a top 10 tennis player in the world, ending up there.
It's really hard to imagine.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I was expecting a little bit more of a venue.
Right.
And it's not. It is a regular farm.
That's true. I see what you mean by this. Wasn't what you were expecting. Yeah, like it's not like a tourist attraction in that
at
sense.
all.
And no,
it's literally just a awesome, immaculate grass tennis court.
Yeah. On a
regular farm.
Yeah, I take that back. I mean, it's not like marketed as a tourist attraction. There's not like signs as you're driving up to it, like Court of Dreams 2 miles this way or anything like that.
No.
But it's super nice and people should visit it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we were driving up on it, we're like, is this it? It's like, no, that's not it. Is that it? Oh, yeah, that's it. Right there. It's just it's a normal farm. And like when I say it's a normal farm, I still think it's a working farm. Like I would assume, and I don't know this, that the Kuhn family is still farming probably the land around it.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of his barns is just like connected to the court, and all the maintenance equipment is in there, and the door is just wide open so you can just see all of it.
Yeah, the machine shed is connected to the court, kind of.
Right.
And I peed on the back side of it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Tim's peed twice in the 3 hours I've been with him today.
3 times. We peed once on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Just twice.
Just twice. Yeah.
I've peed outside twice.
Yeah, that's right.
Jeez, sorry. Okay, so we pull up on the Court of Dreams, and yeah, right away you just see like, oh, there's the machine shed, there's the barn, but you also see that this court is pretty perfect.
Yeah.
It's a really, really, really nice grass tennis court. Now, I'm not the expert on grass tennis courts.
And we don't have anything to compare that to, but like
it felt nice.
It felt nice, and it's super well maintained. And he does it. The little layout that he has going, he's got everything that you would kind of want to see. He's got the chair umpires seat all up high, and he's got like a little set of like raised stands with little chairs in them too. And then I even noticed like
they're on like a farm trailer.
Yeah, they're on like a farm trailer.
Yeah, the seating is on a farm trailer.
Did you notice he has his little deck outside of his house? And there's a little raised section, which it looks like he was like mirroring it after the royal box at Wimbledon. Did you notice that?
I did not notice that.
There's like a bench up there that's purple on like a green mat.
For the king and queen?
Yeah, for the king, if they ever visit.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
So when we show up, there's people playing on the court.
Yeah, that's right.
Like there's 3 guys, probably in their 60s, I would say, that are playing on the court. And you could tell, like, these guys are not premier athletes, but they're tennis guys.
Right. Yeah.
Like, they've got nice equipment. They've got nice shoes. One of them had a ponytail. They were in good shape. They were playing tennis.
And this is they'd been here before.
Yeah. 2 of the guys were from Wisconsin, which we learned. The 3rd guy's from Wyoming. So they come to the Court of Dreams. The 2 guys from Wisconsin come every year for the events because they just love coming there every year. The guy from Wyoming, who we later learned his name was Tom Donovan, great guy. He came from Wyoming. He's got relatives in Mason City, and he just wanted to come to the Court of Dreams and play tennis all day, and he was just kind of hanging out all day. Yeah,
he was like, he ended up being our buddy by the end of the match. He ended up kind of being our ball boy a little bit, too. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but it's just like we hit a bunch out. And he,
like out of the court.
Out of the court. And it wasn't like we were expecting him to get it, but it was like, well, we can't go get it. We don't have, it's not our break time, so we're not going to go walk around and get it. So Tom would just stroll around and get the ball for us. I kind of felt bad about that.
You had to go like into the thicket. It'd be like a thicket, and he'd go searching for our tennis balls just without even being asked.
I know. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. The other thing is I really, really liked all of the detail. So it's not over the top. It's very simple. It's very basic, but it's well done. And when I talked about being surprised or not what I expected, I liked it more because even in its simplicity, they got all the small details right. So for instance, the court itself is encircled by a white picket fence. And the picket fence is white painted on the outside, but on the inside, it's painted in that Wimbledon green.
Yeah.
On the inside, which I thought was a really, really nice touch.
In the top of them were purple, a little purple paint.
Yeah, purple.
Yeah.
The net itself has little banisters around the edges of the net that are like wooden banisters, like nice wooden banisters on the net poles. Did you notice that?
I do, now that you mention it. Yeah, that was kind of cool too.
There's like a gate, a wooden archway to enter the court. There's like you said, there's the umpire's chair that sits, 10 feet high.
Right.
It was cool.
It was really cool. And, I think most importantly, the grass was really well maintained. We've talked about that before, but I feel like
it was green.
It was really green, and you could see that, the stripes were in the grass and everything like that. And it was kind of like, it's worn out near the servers where the servers stand, just like you would see at Wimbledon, which kind of tells me that it must get played on a lot too.
Right.
So like, yeah, you could see a court like this being like the grass is kind of fuzzy, but like it's kind of like, they're trying to model it after Wimbledon, but it's like the main focus is maintaining the grass, but we also got these little touches that make you feel like you're at Wimbledon too.
The other thing that I noticed was the lines itself. I was wondering, like, is this going to be, what type of chalk is he using? Is it going to be like baseball line chalk? Are the lines going to be crooked? And I don't know how they do it, but these things were straight as an arrow. Like, it looked like they were done by a robot, you know?
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I was wondering, it looks like on the baseline, those lines were painted on the grass.
Yes.
But the baseline meaning like the
baseline.
Well,
the sideline or
the
baseline?
sideline. The
Okay.
sideline was painted on, whereas the baseline, at the end was chalk.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like I feel like that's the part that gets worn out, so you got to re-chalk it every time. Whereas like you can't paint it on top of the grass because the grass would just die, and then the paint would die too.
Interesting. I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
I did notice we hit the chalk a couple of times, and you could see chalk fly up.
Okay.
Which was kind of cool.
Did you catch any of my bad calls or anything because of that?
No. No.
No. Okay.
No. Did we have any calls in dispute?
I don't think so.
I don't think we did.
No.
I don't think we did. So, what did you think of the surface itself? We have never played on grass before. I guess my initial reaction was, like, neither of us are wearing grass court shoes. They wear actual grass court shoes with little, like, nibbles on the bottom. They're not cleats, but they got a little more grip. We did not have that. But I thought the footing was fairly good.
I thought so, too. There were only a couple times where we tripped and fell, but that was really when we were trying to make these really sharp cuts, when we got turned around a little bit.
I fell once going backwards. I was in retreat mode, and you did an overhand smash, and I tried to, I was retreating, and then as I was trying to plant my feet, I slipped. You slipped a couple of more times than I did, but I dove a couple of times.
Yeah, that's true. No, I thought the surface itself, I mean, it does take a lot of getting used to as far as the ball does not bounce the same way. It can take a bunch of different weird hops because the ground is not perfectly level.
When you hit a good serve, the ball skips and stays low, and that was really hard to adjust to because it made the return of serve so much harder.
Yeah, and you could tell that our first two games, it seemed like we served as well as we ever have. It was basically straight service matches at that point because we hadn't figured out how to return these serves yet.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, so first of all, the three tennis guys, 2 from Wisconsin, 1 from Wyoming, we show up in our all whites. They think we're tennis studs. They're like, oh boy, here we go. We'll get off the court, guys. And you could tell they wanted to hang out a little bit and watch us because they thought they were in for a treat. They thought they were in for 2 old tennis pros coming out there and showcasing their skills. And we had to tell them right away, we're not good.
Yeah.
Please don't watch us very closely.
Yeah, I know. I kind of cringed thinking because they did stick around and watch, but then they took off once they realized they weren't going to get much of a show.
Well, and they started cheering for us. When we would have a good rally, they would be cheering for us. And at that point, I was like, okay, they know we're not very good. And
I was a little self-conscious about the fact that we had a videographer there.
Yeah, that's the other thing. And so we have our videographer there, Jake, our videographer Jake, and he bless his heart, but he had no clue about tennis. So who knows what this highlight tape is going to end up looking like, because I'm not sure Jake would know a highlight if he saw it.
Well, it was funny. And Jake, bless his heart, but he was there for an hour.
More than an hour
filming our match. And afterwards he's like, guys, I hope I can maybe scratch together 45 seconds worth of highlights. Maybe.
He wasn't kidding.
And he was dead serious.
He was not kidding. He said 30 to 45 seconds of highlights.
Yeah, he said, well, I'll film 2 games straight, just 2 games straight flat. And he dead serious after those games were done. He said, well, it kind of sucks you guys didn't play very well during those 2 games.
And I didn't think we played too bad.
No, and I thought well, it was as well as we've played any other game this match.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Jake was only planning on being there for an hour. He's got drone footage. He had 3 different cameras set up. He was doing angles from all over the court. So I got to imagine he's got some pretty good shots. But it was a shot to the ego as he was taking off after 90 minutes of footage that he's like, oh, I hope I can get 30 good seconds out of that.
We're just dripping in sweat. Like, we've just been killing ourselves for an hour. And he's like, yeah, maybe 30 seconds is all I'm going to be able to get.
Yeah. I mean, I had a couple pretty good serves, and I would go to Jake, I hope you got that one on camera. And I don't know if I don't know if he could tell the difference between the good and the bad.
Yeah, I know.
Which is pretty humbling for me if I think I'm bragging to Jake, and Jake's like, oh, I didn't even know that was a good shot.
I'm a little worried to see the video because I feel like it's one of those things where I'd rather just not see what I look like when I'm playing tennis, because I can kind of like have like a fantasy version of what I look like playing tennis, and then I'm going to get reality when the video actually comes up, but like I just don't look like a legit tennis player.
There was nothing that I did on the tennis court today that made me feel athletic. You've got to be more tentative with your footing on grass. So, like, you can't plant and cut and sprint like you normally would on hard court, even though I made the mistake a couple of different times and I paid for it. And then the wind played a huge factor, and I'm hitting balls out all over the place with my forehand because I have zero topspin.
Yeah.
And so I'm, like, babying it.
Our forehands are so flat. That's the one part of our game where I wish we were a little better, is develop like more of a topspin forehand.
Right.
We're just kind of like, we get to the point where we're just lobbing it back and forth to each other, it seems like.
Right. We're both playing so conservatively. My backhand is just an embarrassment.
Yeah. Same with mine.
I mean, like, I don't even want to see my backhand on tape. That's going to be bad. The forehand, I did hit a couple of good cross-court forehands, but like my net game, my backhand, my overhand smashes were atrocious.
Yeah. Yeah, my net game is more just like, can I make a big deal about running into the net to try to scare you into hitting it away?
That's exactly right.
More than actually like, I'm going to make a good volley here.
Yeah, I will say the first game that we played, we're so excited to be on this court. We're stretching, we're jumping up and down, we're doing the whole thing. And I am the first server, and I've got a decent serve if I get my first serve in. And I hit 6 aces in the first game.
Yeah.
And because it went to multiple deuces, and I hit 6 aces. And you heard the old tennis guys in the crowd, on a couple of them were like, oh, like these guys might be okay. And I remember I said to you, after the first 2 games I served, I was up 2-1, and I think I had about 10 aces in the first 2 games, and I said, if I serve like that, Neil, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and I was a little worried.
Because the ball was skipping, too.
Yeah. Because usually you can bank on, well, yeah, I mean, you got a good serve, but you're going to get it in like 10% of the time. But I think that's really where I ran into trouble today, where you were actually getting your first serve in at least that first set a good amount of time.
Yeah, I was fresh.
You were fresh. Yeah, I think that second set we were really tired, and the sun was in a worse position.
Oh.
And so it was really harder to get those serves in that second set.
Once that sun got like directly overhead at about 1 o'clock, it got hot. I was looking at my Apple Watch, and my heart rate did not get below like 165 for like 12 minutes straight. And I could not catch my breath. And that was at the very end of the first set. Luckily, like, you melted down the last game, which kind of gave me that first set. But I was in a world of hurt during the start of the second set there.
Yeah, and it hurt us too. We were playing just in the smack dab middle of the day, from 12 to 2.
Very, very hot.
It was really, really hot. Although I will say, it's not as hot just being a grass court as a hard court surface would have been.
Right. Yeah, speaking to that, so I had my Apple Watch on. Okay? So you're right. It was not like sweltering like a hard court would be.
Yeah.
So it felt good. And we had shade. They had like the benches there.
It had a little bit of a breeze too.
Had a good breeze.
Yeah.
It played a big factor in the tournament. It was blowing from the south. So you got it at your back when you're on the south side, and so that really changed like when you went to the net or not. At least it did for me. But we played for an hour and 42 minutes according to my Apple Watch. I burned 1,200 calories, and my average heart rate for an hour and 42 minutes was 142.
Wow, that's incredible.
That's pretty high, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that dangerous at all?
Is that as much of a workout as you get in when you do pickleball?
Oh, yeah. I mean, pickleball, you're like you're hovering around 110, I think.
No, I thought it was great. And I think especially, too, that second set where our serves were not getting in as, we weren't throwing together aces left and right like you were those first few games. So our rallies were just getting to the point where no one wanted to take any chances.
Our rallies were better.
Our rallies were you could say better, but we're also like more conservative, where they're just longer.
Yes.
We're just like, who's going to make the first mistake?
Yeah, to that point, I kind of hit this stretch where when I was fresh in the first set, I was getting a lot of serves in.
Yeah.
And a couple of them, like, you didn't even get a racket on. They were by you. I'm bragging a little bit here now.
Well, and I think I thought about this too when you're serving that first couple of sets. Is like when you usually on a hard court surface, you're used to just kind of sticking your racket out to where you think the ball's going to be. And with on a grass court, like you said, the ball skips on those fast serves. So you put your racket where you think it's going to be, but it's actually going to be a little bit lower than that.
Yep.
And I missed a lot because of that, and it took a while to get used to.
And then I hit a point where I just kind of ran out of gas in the middle there, and I was not getting any serves in. And then I was not getting my first serve in. I'm running out of gas. The wind is blowing when you're on the south side of the court. And so I was having trouble getting my second serve in because I'm kind of lobbing it, and the wind was taking it and blowing it deep.
Yeah.
A lot. But then once I regained my breath a little bit towards the end of the second set, even though you won it, and I started getting more first serves in then too, towards the end.
Yeah. And I feel like I really tried to pound your backhand a little bit in that second set. Try to pound the backhand, go to the net, and force you to make a good shot at that point.
There was one point where I was trying to work your backhand, and then I kind of changed strategies because I think your backhand cut is almost more effective than your forehand.
Yeah. When I can get in, and especially on this surface, it felt like when you could get a little bit of spin on the ball, it works a little bit better on this grass surface.
The interesting thing is, when you're playing on hard court, you're living behind the baseline a lot.
Yeah.
And because the ball bounces so much farther and higher. With this, the ball was like dying. Like you could get a forehand or a backhand to die in front of somebody quite a bit.
And I wonder if that's just a fact of maybe not like the grass court surface can vary depending on how much water the grass has and that sort of thing. Like this court seemed like Mark had been doing a really good job watering it, and it seemed like the grass was really green, and so it may be a little bit slower than a normal, like other grass courts may be at this point in the year.
Other grass courts?
Well, I just mean it was not a dry grass court.
Oh, right. It was not hard.
It was not hard. It was very soft.
Yeah, good point. With your game, Neil, I always forget how loud you are on the court. You do a lot of yelling. Like, I don't know if we're going to have any sound in the videos from Jake. What Jake's going to do is going to do a highlight reel, which shouldn't take more than 30 to 45 seconds, according to him. And he also recorded, I think, 2 or 3 full games that we'll have on YouTube and Facebook and everywhere else as well. So I hope we have some sound because there was a lot of yelling going on.
I didn't really realize that. I feel like the yelling gets worse as you get tired and more desperate.
Yeah.
And you feel like the game may be slipping away from you and you can't do the things you maybe could do when you're fresh. And so you can kind of try to make up for it just by like letting out like these guttural noises.
So I won the first set 6-4. You win the second set 6-4. I felt like you were kind of in control, but we were out of time for a third set. We had like
15 minutes
left. So we decided to play the super tiebreaker, which is new to Wimbledon over the last couple of years. So we do a super tiebreaker, which we think the rules are, and somebody needs to help us out here because what we thought the rules were it's the first person to 10 points
Do you switch after every?
You switch sides after every point.
Every odd point.
Every odd point.
After every odd point.
After every odd point.
And I think that's right.
And the first server serves for 6 points, and then you switch. So I served first. I served for the first 6 points. Then you served for the second 6 points, and then I served for the third 6 points, and then you served for the last point, and I won. I won 10-8. So I guess I served 12 out of the 18 points.
Right. And I'm wondering if it's maybe you switch after every 4 serves. That would make more sense because you got twice as many serves as I did in that super tiebreaker. I mean, it's one of those things where, that first set, when you were really getting your first serve in, it maybe would have made more of a difference. But at that point in the game, it's almost like who can just you're almost at a disadvantage being able to serve first because you have one more shot where you got to hit the ball in. But I do think there's a couple times where you got a couple good serves in that super tiebreaker to get you a little bit of a lead there. But it was still a good game.
Let's compare and contrast the Court of Dreams to the Field of Dreams.
Okay.
I think they both have the same type of charm to it. Like, this feels like Iowa, right? It felt like Iowa. It's on an Iowa farm. There's cornfields all around you. It's just we played on an absolutely beautiful day, and the spot where the farm is just looks like quintessential Iowa, similar to how the Field of Dreams settings
among the rolling cornfields of Iowa. Same exact setup as the Field of Dreams. The Court of Dreams is a more, and maybe we're not getting into contrast yet, but it's a more legit playing surface. I mean, obviously, this is a legitimate grass tennis court where you can play competitive matches on. Yeah. Whereas the Field of Dreams site, although we love it, it's not the same type of surface.
Right. You can't play high-level competitive baseball on the Field of Dreams. That's why they had to build another park there. You probably could play a legit tennis match, like a professional tennis match. The court is big enough. I paced it off. It's a full 8 paces, so probably 25 feet from the baseline to the fence. So it's not like the fence is right there. There's plenty of space. Mark did a good job with that. The other piece, though, is that the Field of Dreams, obviously because the Field of Dreams is based off a fictional movie and is not real, it's a tourist attraction with gift shops and everything else. And we love the Field of Dreams, and that's, we love it because it is a tourist attraction and because it came from the movie. But this is just a tennis court in this guy's yard. There's people there, I'm sure, that drive by, come from different states. We saw 3 of them today. But in the Field of Dreams, you can just show up with your dad and play catch in the outfield. You can't just show up here and play tennis because somebody else probably has the court reserved and is playing tennis. You could watch them, but it's a different experience.
Yeah. Initially I was wondering why this wasn't more of a big deal, but obviously there's not a movie made of it. I almost think Netflix needs to get on it and make some sort of terrible Court of Dreams, Field of Dreams spin-off movie where a guy builds a tennis court in his backyard. But this site is more geared to, you have to kind of be like a tennis fan. And it seemed like the type of people that were visiting there, had this, were big tennis people.
I kind of like that it's a hidden treasure. Yeah. It's off the beaten path. It's very, very simple, but it's super nice. It's exactly what it should be. And you got to seek it out. Yeah. It's not easy to get to. It's not easy to find, but you got to seek it out. But it's well worth it when you're there.
Right. And if you watch a lot of Wimbledon and stuff like that, you'll really appreciate it because they have the little benches have the Wimbledon sticker on them too. And so that is really cool. And you can kind of notice the color arrangements match Wimbledon too. So if you're into Wimbledon, this is a good place to visit.
What else, Neil? Was it worth it?
It was worth it.
Was it? Well, we reserved the court, cost a little money, but well worth it. We paid a videographer. We'll find out real soon if that was worth it or not. But we did like Jake. Jake's a really good guy.
No, I like Jake. Yeah.
But
I think if my disposition would be a lot better if I would have.
Yeah, I feel pretty good right now because I won.
Yeah, I have this sicking feeling in my stomach that it's not going to go away for a little bit.
You lost the biggest tennis match of your life.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Ugh.
Would it have been more fun if we had doubles? Like if there were 2 more people to be able to experience it with us?
No. And the reason why I say that is because with doubles, there's more people have to hit the ball in, and there's more areas where the rallies aren't as long. And at least the fact that I got beat is made up a little bit by the fact that I got a really good workout in. Whereas
True.
doubles, I'd just be standing around the whole time.
That's a good point. Tom Donovan was our ball boy. When at the end of the match, he's been watching us and chasing our balls the whole time. He was kind of cheering for us. Just a great guy. And he had a cutoff shirt on. He had an old Irish green hat on.
Yeah, what is that did it say some sort of beer fest on it?
Something. It looked like it was from 1991.
Well, okay, he looked like Randy Quaid. More from a distance than up close. When I got more up close to him, his face wasn't quite Randy Quaid's face, but from a distance, kind of picture Randy Quaid.
And he talked like this a little bit. Oh, where are you guys from? It sounded like he was almost second generation Irish.
Yeah.
And when I introduced myself and he said, I'm Tom Donovan. Oh, I'm Tom Donovan. He kind of said like that, with a little lilt in his voice. And I was like, oh, I'm Tim Flattery. Both of us at the same size said, oh, that's a good Irish name. So I kind of appreciate that. That's what people with Irish American names say to each other.
Yeah, and I have a lot of respect for a guy who could just sit out there in the sun on Mark Kuhn's deck and just watch us play tennis for an hour or two.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was talking to the videographer for a while.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of I felt self-conscious about the fact that we hired someone to videotape our mediocre tennis match.
Yeah.
But it'll be fun to
I guess
get some highlights.
To that point, well, you guys, the listeners, the followers of the pod, the Moonlighters, you be the judge on if the footage we get out of this was worth it or not. So that was it, Neil. That was Recorded Dreams.
Yeah, thanks for taking me, Tim.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. It was our first ever episode on tennis that we've had, in close to 300 episodes here on the Moonlight Graham Show. This was the first one that was focused on tennis. So we're still doing new things, breaking new ground here on the Moonlight Graham Show. And now that I've had a few days to, soak in the victory over Neil at the All Iowa Lawn Tennis Club, I still don't know how I won that match. I really think Neil is a better tennis player than me, but somehow I came out on top. I think it's one of those things where Neil probably won more points, and yet I just won more games. I must have won the points that I needed to win when all is said and done. Next time that we play, we'll probably have to bring out, a tennis expert to watch us and to critique us, because I'm curious to what he would say about our games. Now, as we mentioned in the podcast, we do have a videographer. We've got a highlight reel. We've got, I think, 3 full games recorded that are going to be up on YouTube. So check those out real soon. Let us know what you think about this style of episode as well. Thank you to Jake Buss, who was the videographer up in Charles City. Thank you to the Moonlight Graham Show team, my brothers Andy and Neil, of course, for letting me win in tennis. Brian Sandvig, who does all of our post-production stuff here on the Moonlight Graham Show. Tommy Griffin is the trusted co-host and does all of our write-ups. And then Brendan Gargano does all of our artwork as well. They're the best podcasting team in the business. And thank you, the Moonlighters, for sticking with us and for listening each and every week. Have a great week, Moonlighters.
It's Moonlight Graham, yeah. It's a pretty good program, broadcasting to the heartland. Sports stories for the everyman. It's Moonlight Graham, yeah. Please follow us on Instagram. You're loving us on Twitter too. You download every pod we do. It's Moonlight Graham.